Still the Place with Laura Layton,
Courtney Thorne-Smith,
and Daphne Zuniga, an iHeartRadio podcast.
We're back for another recap, episode number 17.
Yes.
We are.
This is a great episode.
We're hurtling
I
towards...
feel like so much happened in this episode.
Tons.
I feel like there were like 9 storylines in this episode.
It was really good.
They were really good. I feel like it's getting really juicy. We're getting really close to Christmas. It's like we're really getting into the meat of it. And we finally have Joe. And she's here to stay.
Yeah.
So,
and this one's called Jake versus Jake. And it was really a great episode for Grant, I thought.
terrific for Grant.
It was such a good episode. For
Yeah.
Grant.
And this is 17, and next week will be 18, which is our Christmas episode. Melrose's first Christmas episode.
Yep.
That'll air on December 23rd.
And right around then, we're also going to have our producer, Chip Hayes, is going to be
my
coming.
gosh,
So we've
Chip
got
is
lots of fun
coming
stuff
on.
coming up.
That'll be fascinating. Get the behind the scenes.
Chip
dirt.
loves to talk about Melrose, so we can't wait to see him.
He was great. We loved him. And before we start, I just want to remind everyone to follow us, Still the Place, on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. All right, here we go. I'm going to start us off, and then when I get exhausted, I'm going to hand it over to Laura. She's so good at this, but I wanted to give it a go. Okay, Jake versus Jake, season 1, episode 17. Air date was November 25th. 1992.
Which feels like
everyone think of what
yesterday.
they were doing in 1992.
Feels like yesterday.
Well, I will point
And
out
1,000 years ago.
that November of 1992 was an election year.
Yes, it was.
All right,
and
just
we know
saying.
because we start the episode with Rick Dees.
Yes,
Indeed.
Rick Dees, Kiss FM, and he is saying as the camera pulls into the courtyard, Rick Dees is in the morning, says that there was a call-in asking about the new leader in the White House. And Rick says, I think she's going to be fine.
Because they think the reference to Hillary Clinton, she's going to be just fine, would have been something Rick Dees could have just as well be saying at that time. So
that came,
Is
I
Rick
guess,
Dees
4
still
years
on the
later.
air?
I believe
I mean,
so.
probably,
Do you remember
right?
doing his show? Like that's one of those shows like
Yeah, popular.
used to be Regis and Kelly. Used to be Regis and Kathy Lee. And then it was one of those shows that you do every 10 years.
Right.
Well,
I did it with Regis and Kathy Lee.
So Rick Dees was a huge
DJ.
morning show DJ
The radio.
in Los
But
Angeles
is he
area.
still, I wonder?
Yeah, and
Probably. That would be my guess. Maybe the fans will let us know. We start off in Alison and Billy's apartment in the morning, and Billy is making breakfast. Alison's getting coffee. Billy's talking about taking a job as Santa in a department store.
And Allison is being rude.
she's very preoccupied with something.
I feel like he's so excited.
We hope she's preoccupied because otherwise she's just a bitch. We're hoping she's preoccupied.
I think she's preoccupied, but he's
Adorable.
in a wonderful Hawaiian shirt, already in red, and he comes in with such wonderful energy, and you're such a buzzkill.
God.
Give her a break. She's preoccupied.
And then he notices that Allison's not paying attention.
Well, he's trying to get her attention, and he feels like he's trying to be upbeat and fun. And when that's not working, he says something a little shocking, and that doesn't work either. And then he knows something's really
You think
wrong.
at this point he'd be used to it. Like,
yeah. It's kind of like now, I do that with my husband. I'm like, are you, like, he'll just nod and I'm like, are you listening?
And then
he's like,
but he tries to be provocative, and that didn't even penetrate.
Didn't
So he's
work.
like, all right, that's it.
so
what is
she
going
says,
on?
no, I'm thinking about work. And I think she's thinking about something else, but she says work. And Billy asks Alison if she's looking forward to going home and seeing the snow, and she just gets up and leaves for work. So, yeah, you better be preoccupied or he's going to be your therapist again. And didn't those 12 steps to getting over him work, Alison? All right. So next we're in Jane and Michael's apartment, and Jane and Michael are packing for a trip to San Francisco, and she's all excited about it. Making it a romantic weekend for 2. She talked her boss, Kay Beacon, to being a secret shopper. So she thought she'd get away with Michael and up to the city by the bay and have a nice
which I'm
romantic
just realizing
weekend.
as we're reading this, you think, oh, good, we're going to go on vacation with
We get to see
with
their
Jane
little
and
trip.
Michael.
No, we don't.
And it just kind of
We don't get
standalone.
No, we get to hear about it.
Yeah, I
But
know.
and this conversation is sort of like Michael lamenting, wait a minute, did they give me the time off for this because I'm not a good doctor and they
I know,
don't actually
it's all
want
about
me
him
on
again.
rotations?
Maybe it goes into the
Wait
next
a
episode.
minute.
Maybe we're planting seeds for the next episode.
Why are they
But
giving
what
me
I
this
think
time
is
off at
cool-
all?
I think it's reversed. I think it's like she's in the lead. She's in a good mood. Her job got them this trip. And he's like, well, well, I don't know. Maybe I should stick around for work. And she's like, I'm taking you on a romantic weekend, deal with it. And she goes up suggestively and says, take off your pants or something.
Do you think they know at this point that
and he's like, oh, honey, I don't know.
That he's going to make that dark turn. So now they're making him like super, super sweet, like a completely different person than he was. Maybe he's about to take a turn.
Well, it's funny because he does have another one of those moments after last episode where he's completely ignoring her like romantic suggestions. She's like, hey, honey, she's kissing him. She says, take off your pants. He's like, oh, no. Like,
I know. What? I'm like, who is this guy?
Why? What?
Our entire cast of people who can't read the scene. Like you're pushing Grant away the entire last episode. Yes. I'm rude to Billy, and Michael's like, oh, I couldn't possibly.
Oh, beautiful
Josie.
girl. No. Who's my wife? No.
Have you seen you?
We better not kiss right now. Packing for this trip.
I just love to see Michael like, oh no, what are you doing? Anyway, they end up making out on the bed. So.
It does.
Oh no, what are you doing? It's so funny.
She wins him over, but he's pushing back there for a second.
So then we're in the courtyard, and Billy locks the apartment and walks across the courtyard, and Jake comes out and says, hey, Billy, can I borrow $20? Like, sign of the times? Because $20. She's like, why? What do you need it for?
Take a lady out to a fancy
and he's like,
lunch.
oh, my old girl. What?
You can have $20. I'm taking a lady out to a fancy lunch.
Yeah, my old girlfriend called, and I don't want to seem like a deadbeat. So can I have $20?
But I'm broke.
I'm broke, but that means I went somewhere in 1992.
I guess so.
I know, but why would he be broke? He has his own motorcycle shop.
No, he doesn't. He works there. It's not his shop yet. It's not his shop yet because that's a storyline later. Because Joe remembers, I've had scenes with that. He gets the shop. It's a whole big deal.
But Billy has the cash, even though he's about to go be Santa for the season.
Yeah, even though he was borrowing. Anyway, whatever.
Let's not pull that thread.
I'm just thinking,
let's not pull that thread.
Wait.
Who has the money and who doesn't? So then we're at the medical center, and Alison is at the doctor, who says to Alison she has an enlargement of her uterus.
Which is so weird and vague.
To say,
little
see.
odd
like
and
a large
alarming.
uterus in a good way?
Deserves
what does that mean?
Further information.
vague.
Tell me more.
And she asks, is there any possibility that Alison could be pregnant? We'll run some tests. And I think the whole audience goes like, oh my God, not with Keith.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think
like,
that's what Alison's thinking too.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I did just get out of this horrible relationship.
Well, but then she said, but we do use protection and I got my period. So I think the odds are going down.
But it did look like Alison was maybe like, could it be? And the doctor says, well,
maybe she just has an attractively large uterus.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. Tell me more about my
maybe
large
that's why
uterus.
she's so popular.
It is nerve-wracking, I would think, to hear that. And
they do conclude that she needs more tests to know what's going on.
So again, they don't know enough. So here we are at the farmer's market parking lot day. Matt and Rhonda are loading fruit into a van for the halfway house that he got his job back at. And they're missing a flat of strawberries. So Rhonda goes into the farmer's market to grab the fruit. She's got the strawberries, and some guy comes up and takes the box from Rhonda's hands. This is
she
Terrence.
gets so mad so fast about some strawberries.
They get into a tussle over this flat of strawberries. He's
by
saying,
the way,
they're
there's
mine.
a stack
No, they're
of
mine.
flats of strawberries.
Yeah.
There's like 30 flats.
But he's like, no, these are special order, and I paid for these. These are mine. He pulls it back, and she pulls it back. Oh, they're mine, and they're donated for street kids, and no, mine.
She calls him a bully.
Silly.
And I just love how protective she is of the kids that in the home, and like, who are you? These are for
farmers
kids.
markets can be dicey.
Yeah,
I mean,
like the flower market.
It's a dicey place.
You can get into a
So
pretty
he's an
serious
attractive
tussle.
man that comes
Don't
up
forget
and
your mace.
he's smiling and stuff. Your mace. And then Matt comes in and tells Rhonda, oh no, I found the strawberries. Ours, we're good.
Never mind.
And she's
Oops.
like, she gives him back the flat of strawberries to the stranger, but she's still angry.
The very handsome stranger too. That's the other
Very
thing.
handsome. It's then when he sort of takes a look at her, and she goes to leave, and he follows her out, and he's like,
Yeah, so it's Terrence, by the way. This is introducing a character that is she's going to
he was here for a
have
while.
a nice storyline with her. Yeah. So this is the beginning of it, this kind of banter. So he follows her, and there's a shot of like him behind her, and she's like, leave me alone. I'm not interested in you. You're a pain in my ass. And he's like, well, I could be interesting too. And I'm kind of shy, actually. I'm realizing right now, we find out, okay, I know why he needed the strawberries. Oh, penny just dropped. Daphne watched this episode 3 times,
but he apologizes.
And I just figured out something.
Right.
I'm so sharp.
I didn't catch the fruit connection either when it comes later.
But you will later.
But you're right. But what he does do is like he notices, hey, you're actually cute, and I wish I hadn't come on so strong, and would you be interested in going out sometime? So in that scene he has to apologize for his behavior and ask her
and
out.
He kind of wins her over because she's like, okay, but we're gonna leave that little tete-a-tete to the doctor's office day, and the doctor comes in and tells Alison that she's not pregnant, but the doctor would like to take some blood and do a sonogram to figure out what's going on. And of course,
here's my question: we haven't done a sonogram yet. How visible is Alison's enlarged uterus? Like if you haven't done a sonogram.
There's a lot of questions here in this scene that are very technical, and I don't think it serves us to really open that door.
Yeah, let's just go. Can we just go along?
Your skirt's a little tight. I notice you have an enlarged uterus.
I don't think we should be asking all the questions right here.
No, let's move
Don't
right
pull the
along.
thread. No, keep going. Carry on.
Accept the dialogue. Accept the circumstances.
This was written by a man.
This is what happened.
First we say enlarged uterus, then we do a sonogram, and then we're going to do a pelvic exam.
We're just telling the story, folks.
He doesn't know what comes first. But Alison is, alarmed, rightfully so, and says, do you know what's wrong? And she's like, look, I don't know. We just need to do some more tests. Could be any number of things. And by the way, do you have insurance? And she's like, no, by the way, I don't.
But she says specifically, I don't have hospitalization insurance. So do I have?
She's talking about being hospitalized
other insurance?
and the operational insurance, like what the procedures are, is different than hospitalization.
Agency. But anyway, we've been talking about insurance.
Yeah, we've been talking about insurance.
The SAG insurance plan, and we're all up in arms about it. But any insurance would include hospitalization. You might have a high deductible, but you're not going to have insurance for.
Well, I don't know. Some policies might not if you don't want to pay that much or don't have that much, because hospitals are so expensive. I think anyway. This is I think 92.
We get in the weeds if we actually ask these questions because there's a lot of it that doesn't quite make sense. But I think the point is to say the story. That like the doctor is insinuating this could be really serious.
Yes.
And Alison has zero insurance.
Doesn't have
for
insurance.
any of it.
And I think you're right about not pulling a thread, because as the shows get crazier and crazier, we
do not
pull the thread.
Do not.
The reality police out too early.
We can never
don't
say,
start
why
asking
is Sydney
questions.
wearing that? You don't ask?
Yeah. Do not ask.
Why is she wearing a pillbox hat? You
Nope.
don't ask?
Nope.
Just go.
Going with it.
Yeah. I will try to have an explanation, but I make no
If we
promises.
start now, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Season 2.
So anyway, now we're in the restaurant.
Yes, we're in the restaurant. And Jake and his ex-girlfriend, Colleen, they're having lunch at this nice restaurant and reminiscing about the past. And Jake says, yeah, that was all of 5 years ago, which today seems like last week. For me at my age, for someone to say, well, that was 5 years ago, I'm like, 5 years ago went so fast. But the point is that this was a long time ago. That relationship's over and gone.
And did she look familiar to you guys? This was Beth Toussaint. She was on Dallas. Do you remember her from Dallas? She looked so familiar. She was on Dallas and Young and the Restless.
After Melrose was Young and the Restless.
Yeah, I must have known her from Dallas. She was so familiar to me.
Well, she was great in this.
Yeah, she was great. And so she says, by the way, I have a 4.5-year-old son named David. And you, Jake, are the biological father. And, this guy, Robert, to legally be David's dad, since he's the only father that the son has known. And Grant is just like...
gobsmacked.
Slow the F down, lady. What? I am? And this launches us into his story for this episode. So he ends this by saying, no, I'm not signing off. I'm the father and I'm not going anywhere.
And she does explain that she put his name on the birth certificate, because I was thinking, why tell him at all? But they did explain, Laura.
They did. We have this information.
I just thought this was so horrible of her. I can't even imagine.
So
I don't know, but to wait 5 years and then to go to the guy and you're going to actually bring it up to him and then say, oh, but you can have nothing to do with him? Oh, like he doesn't even have a choice.
Well, it's also a little bit of a thread to pull to say, because we're going to learn that he's the one who was leaving for California at the time when she was finding out that she was pregnant, and she chose not to tell him. She tells him that here. So he was leaving for California. She also says, I loved you, but you were leaving, and so I couldn't tell you. Yeah. And now 5 years have passed. I'm married to a wonderful man who is very successful, she mentions.
For me, though, she didn't make it clear that they weren't serious enough or they didn't give it a go.
Right.
And so that's too little information for me to go, okay, well, this is a, we have this kid, but
it doesn't justify not telling
we broke up or you left and you didn't want us to end or anything.
Yeah.
I still thought it was
it's a little vague.
Shocking that she would come to him and say all this. And so
he's shocked. He is justifiably
totally
also shocked.
So now we're at Shooters at night, and Joe and Jake are both at Shooters having a drink, and Jake is like, I'd like to be left alone. He leaves. She's like, no, wait a second. Just because I can't be trusted doesn't mean I'm not a good listener. So she follows him over to the bar, and she's like, tell me. And he tells her that his ex-girlfriend from Washington showed up and told him that he has a kid.
Bomb dropped.
And she's wide-eyed, and we're all like, what? And so Joe's wide-eyed and asks Jake, wait a second, do you know for sure that it's your kid?
Right. First things first. Need to know if that's really
right.
Yeah.
A normal question. And then Jake says, Colleen wouldn't lie about this. And then Jake says that Colleen wants Jake out of the picture, which is devastating.
Absolutely.
Came all the way here to say, oh, you have this kid you didn't know about, and I don't want you to be the dad. It's a lot. I was really shocked and felt for him. And I didn't think it was right of her. But anyway, then Jake says to Joe, it makes a difference to him now that he knows he has a son, and he wants to bring the son home with him. And Joe's like, wait a second, Jake, you might be wrong about this, and that they have a family. She's, with someone else, and you might blow up a family. And of course, the minute that comes out of my mouth, by the way, I was like, no, don't say that. Have some empathy.
Don't say the thing.
Well, because he really objects to that use of the word family, right? That doesn't have
I'm the family. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he says, you just don't understand. You don't understand what guys feel. Joe says, well, I just don't understand guys who feel because they love someone, feel like they own them. So that tells a little bit about her past and her, what she's experienced.
That's a bit of a theme. Yeah.
A bit of a
little. That pisses him off. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he's like, I'm done talking to you.
Yeah. I don't want to talk
basically, to you suck. You can't be trusted and you suck as a listener.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. And then, anyway, he wants to be alone. And so, but she gets up to leave. So they're still trying to figure their stuff out. So we are in Alison and Billy's apartment, and Alison is on the phone with her doctor, and Billy comes in and hears part of it and is like, hey, what's that all about? She says, no, nothing. I got to take care of it myself. And he's like, no, let me be a friend and I can help you out. And she opens the refrigerator. She's still rebuffing him and says, oh, you drank the last soda. You want to help? Get some more. And she
Alison
goes to
is so charming.
All of a sudden, she's so passionate about her soda. She didn't strike me as a soda drinker until now.
I think it's a sign of like a big uterus or something.
I think that's
hormones are like
big uterus is thirsty.
If you have an enlarged uterus, you need soda.
So she slams the door, and he's left going, what the hell? And okay, so next we are in the restaurant. So Rhonda and the lovely guy from the farmer's market, Terrence, are out on a date at a very fancy restaurant, and they are at the front maitre d's stand, and she's complaining.
She's already fired up. Like she's carrying right over from the farmer's market. She's fired up again.
Yeah.
Looks gorgeous, of course.
She's got some complaints.
She's complaining that the maitre d' is like where they're taking them to the table and how they're
looking at them. They're getting ignored.
Treating them poorly. And he's
Snooty.
like, aren't they all like that? And anyway.
And they do take them to a table right by the swinging doors to the kitchen. So every time you're on her shot, the doors are swinging open behind her. She's not wrong. It's not a good table.
And so they sit down way back there, and he goes, well, that's fine. The food's the same all over the restaurant. And
he actually says to her, are you implying that this is racial, or do you think it's because we're not dressed really well?
What is it you think is happening?
Here?
Yeah. And so, or do you think, and she's like, probably both. So then Rhonda suggests that they go, let's just go to Pink's and get some dogs and go to the beach.
Stand.
Yeah, famous LA stand. Isn't that on
La Brea.
La Brea. And then the maitre d' comes over and whispers into Terrence's ear. And Rhonda says, now what?
So exasperated.
And Tara says, well, the chef wants to talk to the owner of the restaurant about the dinner. And I'm the owner.
By the way.
So she's like, what?
Do you think he was testing her though, seriously? Like, is it a test to put her at the bed? Because obviously he's the owner. He should have the best table in the house. Do you think he was testing her?
I was thinking maybe he wanted privacy.
Yeah, nobody wants to sit by the swinging door.
But maybe
I didn't notice the swinging door.
It was
I just
his
thought
way
it
of
was
being
in the
like,
back.
I don't care about this stuff. You know, like, look at me. I'm actually the owner. We're going to find out later he drives a fancy car. But that he's trying to be like, I have all this stuff, but I don't care about this stuff. Why do you care? What is it that you think is happening here? Like, that's what he challenges.
He's trying to win her over, and he's got a
Yeah.
big hurdle because she doesn't like him already from the morning.
She's all fired up.
a little, she's just a little annoyed. But he's like, yeah, hey, this is all
So-
great. And by the way, I own this place.
Next,
Enjoy.
Just a lovely surprise.
So next we're at the hotel lobby, and I noticed this is where Jake is here in the lobby, and he's there in his leather jacket holding
What
a teddy
hotel
bear.
was it, do you think? Was it Shutters?
Lowe's.
Oh, the Lowe's.
Lowe's down on Santa Monica.
That makes sense. It was so pretty.
So pretty.
But he looks out of place because he's in his leather jacket.
With holding a teddy bear.
Holding a teddy
So
bear.
he walks through the lobby into the back, and there's a pool at the back facing the ocean. And he watches. He watches Colleen and Robert and David, the kid, playing in the pool.
The kid in a tiny Speedo, which is, is that the fashion then?
It was his 1992 Speedo.
Yeah. So anyway, Colleen sees Jake spying on them and comes over and is like, what are you doing here? Don't mess up my plan and don't be seen here. If you want to talk to me, you call me. Don't be macho and don't ruin this.
Which is a good point. And by the way, the kid is Miko Hughes, who was in Pet Sematary and also Full House.
And then a bunch of, I looked him up and I saw people saying, I think it was on a podcast, how a child actor became a horror star. So he did a bunch of horror films. Yeah.
Wow.
I guess
Pet
this
Sematary
experience
was
set
scary.
him on his way.
And he was probably like 6
He
or
was
7
adorable.
here, right?
Yeah. When they
young.
find
A little
a little
young.
kid that can act, they just pounce.
Yeah.
He was really good.
He was really good.
He was adorable. So the little kid, David, looks back at Jake as they walk away.
He walks away holding his dad's hand, and Jake just watches. He's holding the teddy bear, and
Holding the
it's
teddy,
painful
which is
moment.
heartbreaking with that.
Just heartbreaking.
pretty hard.
And then we all have come to know and love Jake. I mean, Grant, Jake. And so I think it's hard as an audience member to just see, like, because he's such a good guy, is my point.
Such a good
right?
guy.
We're always pointing that out. So now Rhonda is walking down the street in workout gear when Terrence pulls up in a Mercedes convertible.
Nice.
He's a very wealthy guy, clearly. And he says, hey, Matt told me that we'd see you around here. I'd see you here. And Terrence says, come to Catalina with me. And she's like, well, I'd love to, but I have errands to run and a Saturday class to teach. And Terrence asks to chauffeur Rhonda to her class. Rhonda notices that it's not the same car Terrence drove on date night. And she's like, what? You have like all these cars? And he's like, yeah, that was for the schlepping around.
His Toyota is just for schlepping vegetables and apparently for first dates.
Maybe it was a test.
Yeah.
The bad table and everything to sort of read her. And he told everybody not to make a big deal. So probably the maitre d' wasn't looking at him because he said, don't make a big deal, because he wanted to know if she loved him for him.
Very good. Very good.
Very good.
Putting all the points
look
together.
at
But now,
Courtney paying attention.
now I want to win her
noticing
over.
stuff.
So,
But now he's got his fancy Mercedes convertible, and he says, this one is for town.
and I want to take you to Catalina. Rhonda asked Terrence if he wants to go tomorrow night while he's getting in the car. And he says, yes, you bet. Alison and Billy's apartment. Billy walks into the room in full Santa costume where Alison is getting coffee.
Because he needs to be more adorable while Alison's being awful. Let's just up the volume on him being good. And
Yes,
she's bad.
you're not going to let me
No,
in.
he's actually Santa.
You're going to say everything's fine. I'm going to act like everything's fine. I'm going to ignore the passive aggression. So she goes, oh, good, you got the job. Totally less than thrilled. Alison goes into the living room and all of a sudden starts crying on the couch. And Billy
sobbing like from 0 to 1,000.
Well, he's goofing around in his best Santa voice, and he sits down next to her. She's turned away, and he says, "What do you want for Christmas?" And she just loses it, and that was the final straw. She loses it, starts to cry.
So he notices that she's upset and takes off the Santa beard and says, "Hey, what is going on?" And she tells him, "They found a benign tumor in my uterus, and that is rapidly growing." And he is absolutely shocked, but that she says she needs an operation to have it removed. It's not cancer, but it could mess up having children.
My mom called this my Stella Dallas speech because Stella Dallas was like a soap person in the 50s. There's always something, and it was like, I have a benign tumor. It's rapidly growing. It's an operation. It might mess up my chances of having children. Also, I don't have insurance. And there's another thing I can't remember. There's worse thing. Like, it was just like every single time.
I have to tell you all the things.
That's hilarious, Stella Dallas.
Slowly, just peel them out of me.
Did your mom watch this with you?
Not with me, but she talked to me after, and she
she did. She watched it
because it was just one more thing.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned it, and then the worst part is,
and the thing is, you have to do as the actor, you have to do that a million times. You have to keep saying these lines, and after a while, you're like, okay,
It's hard. You must have been like, like, oh, I got to do this again from this side, and your throat is hurting.
Like, I remember listening to Tori Amos. Like, I found a really sad song, and I remember really prepping for this. And then I think by the time we did it, I just couldn't stop crying. Like, I may have over-prepared. I'm watching it going, build to it, sweetie. But I didn't build to it. I think I was just, whatever I was working on, like you were talking at the moment before, whatever I was working on just completely took over. Because as Alison is crying and crying, I'm saying, well, this, like, maybe wait and start crying on I can't have children, but I start crying on I have a benign tumor. And like a lot for benign tumor.
Well, it's a long scene, and there's a lot she has to get out, and you sustained it for the whole scene, and
it was great.
Yeah, it was very sweet.
But I didn't start.
But you had a lot.
Like, you can tell, like, I was off camera listening, and I'm like, go, I'm ready to go. Just like it.
You had a lot of information to tell Billy too.
Yeah, and
I was equally upset about all of it.
Well, some of it was my parents can't afford to help me.
You get to wear the Santa suit. I'm just over here crying.
And then he goes, it'll be okay. And he leans over in that Santa suit and gives you a big hug.
Yeah, he says he'll be there for you. And that's when she also reveals that she doesn't have health insurance, and that's the real thing she's like worried about.
And is this when he said, because this line killed me, but maybe this was when he goes, I'm going to do everything I can to help you, everything, so get used to it. Was that this thing? Because he said that, I was like, this is the nicest thing I've ever heard. Like, going to my house going, isn't that sweet? No, I think that was it. Anyway, that's
he also says,
get ready, that's coming up.
He also says, we'll find a way. We'll find a way to make this work. And then she's like, she smiles through it and is like, somehow sitting there looking at you as Santa, I believe it. Like, if Santa says it, I actually believe it. It's very sweet. And that's when he hugs her in his big red suit.
Again, we've always noticed that
she cries some more.
We've always noticed the drama versus the humor. I mean, the stuff that these writers, this isn't just a straight drama. This is a very out there show. And I just love how the writers like have it, you pouring all this out, and he's in a big Santa outfit. Like, I'm going to take care of you. And there's always that lightness and that humor.
We're in the courtyard where Joe is knocking on Jake's door with a bag of groceries she's carrying. And when Jake answers the door, Joe says she came to apologize for last night at Shooter's. She asks if Jake will accept the peace offerings she has brought, including the baguette that's sticking out of the bag. And she says they don't have to talk about anything. And so he agrees to let her in. And then inside the apartment, she's pouring wine while Jake tells her that he's thinking about seeing a lawyer and getting some form of custody for his son, saying he's angry that Colleen lied to him. Joe notices the teddy bear. Jake then tells Joe about trying to go to meet David and that things didn't go well. Jake says he thinks he could be a really good dad. It's another scene of him just going, I think I could do this. And but he doesn't want to be like his own recent visit from his own mom. He doesn't want David to think that he's pathetic. And Joe says that's a completely different situation. Jake says he doesn't feel good enough at anything adult, and he really wants to take care of his kid. And she asks him, well, have you thought about what it would be like to have a kid in your life and what life would be like for the kid, including the expense, she points out. And this just pisses Jake off. He gets angry, walks out of the room saying, thanks for the wine, Joe, and you just don't understand me. anything. You don't understand this or me.
He's not
Bye.
super good at difficult conversations.
He didn't want to be told that there was another point of view on this. Yeah.
Well, I feel like Jake has, again, this is getting into the story of his self-worth. I also forgot to mention that this was directed by Victoria Hochberg. And Victoria was really good, at bringing out the emotional story, bringing that to the forefront. So she uses the camera, she directs the actors in a way that isn't sort of like cookie cutter or expected.
That's
so
right.
the blocking, this scene ends with this wonderful, I'm in the foreground. You know, he comes to Joe and says, you don't understand and you don't understand me, and turns and walks back to the kitchen. And then the last shot of this is me turning towards camera going, oof. And then he's in the background, turned the other way.
Yeah.
And so there it tells a story. And that is the difference. And that's what I really liked about Victoria. I really loved working with her because she really worked with you and your emotion. I don't know if you remember that.
The hours were long. I do remember her. The hours were long, but she really cared.
Yes,
and then this is a very emotional, high stakes, and I think it really came across.
Yeah.
So that's the director as well.
Yeah. So then we're back at the hospital with Alison and Billy. He's gone with her, and they're in the intake office where a hospital administrator is telling them that Alison cannot be admitted without insurance.
And did you notice the body language of Billy and Allison? Yeah. Like if you were in couples therapy, you'd be like, that's a happy couple. We were leaned in. I don't know if she directed us because of the shot, but like we were leaned in toward each other, like subtle body language. We were basically touching each other. I was like, wow, that's
to me, it looked like two kids trying to play grown up. Like they're in a, you know what I mean? Like this is big life stuff and health stuff, and they're in a hospital, and it seemed like two, not kids, but a young couple, trying to figure this out in this big, ominous place.
And the administrator was great. He was very
oh my God.
super dweeby, but like also very condescending to these idiot children who didn't know that they
very high
needed
voice.
insurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, isn't this where Billy says, I want, my dad still pays his bills in person.
Yeah.
And we got to make them know that you're a person. Well, that went over well.
Yeah.
This guy was like,
his objective was not.
Like it was good. He's really
it was
trying
good
to
advice.
help.
Didn't
That
work
was
with
really
this guy
sweet.
though.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure if we appeal to them in person, they'll just let us schedule you for surgery.
This guy with his pinched glasses.
It's $15,000 prepaid.
Yes.
Which, I can do in today's dollars.
That kind of money she
would have gotten insurance.
Exactly.
So $15,000 in today's dollars is very much money. And they realize they're going to go try other hospitals. And he says, well, good luck with that.
It's $34,000.
All right. No way that she's going to come up with that for the surgery. So they try all these other hospitals. We're cut to the parking lot where they're coming out in the rain out of one more hospital. They're clearly exhausted. They've been to all of them. And Allison says maybe she just won't have the surgery at all. Maybe the fibroids would just go away by themselves.
And this looks like real rain. Like it actually rained.
Yeah, it did. It was real rain.
Nobody
shot
knows
in the rain.
what to do. They got us a humongous
we got to shoot. We have to get our day.
Yep. And
but this never happened. Do you remember when they'd have to cover the cameras? Like they had to put plastic over all the cameras when it rained?
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a very big deal.
But here is where Billy says, well, listen, if you can't come up with the money by tomorrow and figure this out, I'm going to ask my parents for the money. And Allison says, you're a great friend, but this is my problem. And this is where Billy says to Allison that you're my best friend.
So sweet.
That's super sweet. So she kisses him on the cheek and she says, I still will not borrow the money from your parents. So then we're into the courtyard at night where Matt is with Jane and Michael opening a box of Christmas decorations, and he drapes a tinsel garland around his neck as Jane says it's her first Christmas with palm trees. And she and Michael tell Matt about the decorations that were beautiful on Geary Street in San Francisco.
You guys should have seen it.
Yeah.
I wish we could have brought cameras.
San Francisco and Geary Street and Union Square was so beautiful and so fun at Christmas. Remember Union Square and the tree and the caroling? Just gorgeous.
And then Alice and Billy walk into the courtyard, and Billy makes a snide comment to Michael about right, when you were up there hobnobbing with your medical thieves.
And you guys are all greedy. And
he says he's sick of doctors and their rules and regulations. Michael's like, well,
Michael's like, whoa, what?
Try not to take that personally. And Jane sort of defends them and says, the people at the conference were very concerned about improving health care. But Billy just scoffs and goes into his apartment. So then Rhonda and Terrence all of a sudden enter the scene, coming walking down the stairs from her apartment. They're very dressed up.
They look so gorgeous. She has on this silver dress, and I took a picture of it to send.
And he's in a tux, like full black tie
so
event.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, she looks lovely. And Rhonda introduces Terrence to all of the friends, and they head out. And Michael follows Alison and says, what's going on with Billy? Alison says he's just trying to help her. And he says, well, listen, if what you're needing help with is a medical problem, maybe I can help.
And this is another good shot. You're talking about Victoria, where it's me in the foreground and Billy just being furious in the background.
Yeah, right.
Which I love a two shot when you both get to be actually in the
and you're
scene
moving.
together.
Yeah.
Natural movement.
So Michael is in Alison and Billy's apartment listening about Alison's situation.
Again, this lovely version of Michael. Could not be nicer.
Like, maybe I can
It's
help.
like, take it now while it lasts.
Yeah.
It's just like
Must be about to turn. They're making him super
he's
nice.
like,
we know he's
help.
about to turn.
Let me help.
Yeah, but right now he's Mr. Nice Guy. So he offers to help. Maybe he can get her in for surgery. And when he leaves, Alison goes to the fridge and is touched to see that Billy has stocked it with soda for her uterus.
But she did it. She said, to fix this. And he's like, okay.
Yeah. And this is where Billy tells Alison that he's going to stick by her and see her through this. And he kind of goes in for a hug, maybe, right in front of the fridge here. And she kind of deflects. Did you notice that? I had to go back and watch a couple times. Oh. He kind of goes in for a hug, and she kind of goes, you don't have to do that. Like,
you just got me soda.
You kind of go, you don't have to do that. And I was like, what is happening in this moment? Because then she says, it's kind of coy. I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining it, but this is what I saw. And then she tells him there's a silver lining to all this and that I got a real best friend. And I was like, is she trying to sort of like tease him about
might be happening coming
because
up
because you kind of go to your room and he's left there smiling thinking about that. Like,
well, the other thing is,
like, is there something more than best friend?
To accept help, it's hard for her to accept he's being so great. She does need him, and he's showing up for her. Yeah, I think that's terrifying for her.
I also just think it's one of these examples where what we're seeing is Courtney and Andrew underneath the Billy and Alison of it all. So like there's some other little colors here, or maybe I'm just reading into it because I know. Anyway. So we got to the motorcycle service shop where Jake is working at night. He opens the door to find Colleen has knocked on the door. Jake tells her he's busy. She says, maybe I can help. She walks into the shop and they start talking a little bit. We see here that like they do have some things in common. She does know a thing or two about motorcycles.
She knows how to help him with the motorcycle.
And she says in this moment
she's a tough
that she's sorry that they didn't get to settle down together, that she thinks she maybe would have been happy in a trailer. So that's sort of a glimpse into their younger selves, I think. And then Jake says, that was over 4 years ago. This is now. And Colleen, again, asks him to do what's best for David and sign the papers.
Yeah, and it's just like, I saw this as one more scene of another woman telling Jake how to feel and what to do about this hugely profound situation he's in, right? Like, Joe's like, well, I don't think you should, be careful about taking him on as your son and watch out. And then she comes back and with her baguette and says, well, I'm here to make peace, but also she has this opinion. No one's listening to him. And then Colleen comes back and she's like, oh, we had so much in common and stuff, but she really just wants him to like, are you going to sign the papers? And I just felt for Jake. I just felt like, Jesus, no one has any empathy for this guy.
Well, and he's pissed. He is pissed and hurt by that.
Of course he's pissed by that. And he says that, I'm pissed at you. You got what you want. And I didn't get what I wanted.
Yeah.
He's very rightfully pissed.
And he says, I think he makes a good point. He says,
and then he says, well, hold on. But then he says, don't push me, Colleen. I'm trying. Just give me a day. And then she leaves, right? Mm-hmm. But he's like, back off. And because I just thought it was really well written. And I felt for him.
So then the next morning, Jake is in the shop. He's wearing the same T-shirt. Did he spend the whole night working? I wonder. But he uses a payphone on the wall in the shop, and he calls Colleen. He's been thinking about it all night. And apparently David answers the phone because we hear Jake say,
hi.
Can I talk to your mommy?
Hi. You just see him go, can I talk to your mom?
Yeah.
Hi. Let's work something out.
And then he gets Colleen on the phone and says he wants to work something out. He says he doesn't need her to tell David that Jake is his father, but he does want a chance to see him in person.
Yeah.
So then we cut to a really cute scene where Jake is getting ready in the mirror. He's getting ready to meet David. He's combing his hair and he's changing his clothes. He's going through
such a cute little montage,
Such
right?
a montage.
It's like
so getting ready for a date.
like a rom-com.
Yeah.
Like they do those quick cuts. He's in the
really
mirror. Should I wear a
music.
tie?
I bet this was Victoria's idea.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
adorable.
totally.
Really cute.
Super upbeat.
So he puts a jacket on and a button down. Oh, the tie? Nope, too much. Takes it off. Yeah, no, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
He's all nervous.
Super cute, and he's excited. I love the tone of that scene. So then we see him walking out in the courtyard. He passes Joe on his way out, and he's definitely like hopeful and enthusiastic as he's going. And he tells her he's on his way to meet David. And Joe tells like, Jake, have a good time.
Yeah, have fun. And then she turns around, and then the camera hangs on me. He leaves the courtyard, and then Joe, like, she's happy for him. Like, oh, no, I know what she's clocking. She's going to maybe follow him.
Right, because he says very intentionally.
I was wondering,
I'll
I
see
saw
you
that
soon.
moment, like, why would she turn and smile? But this is a moment that's telling of what's to come.
She's thinking
So
about
she's-
something.
Because she's got her equipment with her because she's a photographer.
Is she a
Wait,
photographer?
is she-
She hasn't mentioned it. Oh, that's
She has a
interesting.
camera right in her bag.
Never heard that. So then we go to the restaurant where Colleen, David, and Jake are having lunch together outside, a nice restaurant, and Jake is watching David and smiling. And
so cute.
David is asking Jake, hey, were you and my mom yelling at each other yesterday? And he says, yeah, but that didn't mean anything. And Jake and David then get into their own little lighthearted little disagreement about superheroes. And David said, well, it's okay that we're arguing because you're my mom's friend.
Yep.
And that's sort of a bittersweet thing for Jake to hear is like, yeah, I'm your mom's friend, but also.
And then at one point, the little kid says, "Hey, Mom, where's Dad? Where's my dad? Is he joining us for lunch?"
Yeah.
And she has to look at Jake and go, "No, he's not."
And it was
Jake's just
for Jake. It was right after the moment where he sees his kid like having the same habit as him. Is that he's
Put the
dipping his
French fry
fries
in
in
the
mayonnaise,
mayo.
and he's very deliberately he
so
wants to know to
poignant.
Colleen, like, is that something that you
Guys
or
do.
or Robert do? And she's like, no, that's just David. So it's like, oh my gosh, my kid has the same
biological
thing, whatever, and
trait.
he has this like happy feeling on his face, and he's so proud and whatever.
They're just
and then,
piling on the poignancy and the connection, aren't they?
And then the reality about calling Robert dad was like, that's when
Yeah.
he says, all right, give me the papers to sign. Super bittersweet. So then at D&D, Alison is working at her desk. Michael comes in and tells her that he's arranged to have her admitted to the hospital as a teaching patient, and there will be no charge. Allison is super grateful. Michael gives her the consent forms to sign, and she asks him a little nervously if he knows what they're going to do to her. And he says, you're in great hands, and your surgery is scheduled for next week.
I
Which is
mean,
so
that's
amazing.
nice. Like,
Yep.
boom.
He got her in. He made it work. And so then we're out at the hotel valet. Colleen and David are going to be leaving, so they're saying goodbye. Jake's bike is there, and they're saying goodbye to Jake. Colleen says she always knew Jake was a terrific guy.
He says, "Bye, motorcycle man." Did you guys tear up? I totally was like,
Oh.
I mean, I was just like lost it for this guy. You got to build up his inner conflict. Like, this is my boy. Should I just? But he doesn't. He doesn't say anything, and he picks the boy up.
Yeah, that was so
and they
sweet.
touch foreheads, and you're just like, ah.
Yeah, they have the sweetest goodbye
And then there's
moment.
that
Yeah.
wonderful freeze, and it turns to black and white, I think.
Yeah, because as they're saying goodbye and they do that sweet little bye motorcycle man moment, we hear a camera click and you cut away and you see Joe is out there hidden, and she's snapped a photo of this very moment, and she's captured this moment of Jake and David.
It's beautiful.
So then in her apartment, Joe is developing the photos in her dark room. She hangs one up to dry and looks at it, smiling. Mm-hmm. And then at Jake's apartment, he's standing at his kitchen counter eating a piece of pizza, having a beer, when Joe knocks on the door and she hands him an envelope, and he opens it to find the photo that she took of him with David. And he's absolutely speechless and asks Joe how she got this lovely photo. And Joe admits that she followed him, and he thanks her, saying he owes her big time. Joe says, I'll collect later. She smiles at him and she leaves.
Very suggestively. I don't know how to say it, but I'll collect later.
But
That's
she doesn't
the-
stick around. She lets him have this moment. And
Yeah,
he
that was
goes back
nice.
inside. He puts the photo on his fridge and he steps back to look at it. And the episode ends with him looking at this photo and saying, you're going to be okay, kid. You're going to be okay.
Were you guys thinking, get a nice frame?
I know. I was
Get a
like,
nice frame. It's a
exactly.
beautiful picture.
I also just thought it was such a dad thing to do, to put the photo on the fridge.
It was such a Jake thing to do, to take a little
yeah.
magnet and put it right there in center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has
So
this
good.
photo on the fridge.
And
So
then
very
do you
sweet.
remember, does the kid come back? Is this a recurring storyline?
He looked well, yeah. Okay. So I was a little confused because don't you remember? I thought Colleen was played by another actress later.
We will have to find out. We're
Like
so
in a few
lucky we
years.
get to watch these episodes and find all these things out.
But I
down
do
the line.
believe we see this or another kid to play David later.
I think it's talked about. I'm not sure if he actually makes
Yeah,
an
I was trying
appearance.
to remember.
We
Yeah.
will have to find out, ladies.
We will have to
And
find
then
out.
Joe printed jeans and half like photographs of clocks.
Yeah.
They were printed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Printed.
Very artsy downtown.
Very
And they
artsy.
weren't black for Joe to
Yep.
not be wearing black.
And I love I've always loved the black long sleeve with the little cutouts that she wore.
Yeah, that was a
Those
cute
are sexy.
outfit
I
when you
love
showed
those.
up at the door with your shoulders showing. All cute. And the other sign of the times is, of course, the payphone on the wall.
Yes.
It's at his workplace, and he has to like stick a quarter in to make a call.
Have you guys, talking about another show for a second, have you watched The Americans? So it's a spy
Yes.
drama that takes place
Yeah.
in the 80s, and they're like being chased by bad guys with guns, and they have to find a payphone.
Oh my God! Yes,
I remember
payphones.
Love it.
Remember they went from a dime to a quarter
Yes.
to yeah.
Well, we also had some fan comments recently. One of our fans commented on our socials that she loves the newest recap episode and that she was born in 1991. So getting context about what was going on in the world is extremely interesting. She said she also loves hearing Courtney share her opinions on Alison's wardrobe.
How did you like your wardrobe this one, Courtney?
I was not a huge fan, but I think with the enlarged uterus, it was
I
hard to
think
find clothes
I
that
think
fit
the
me in
wardrobe
this
was really
episode.
based around the uterus.
Yeah,
I
it was
thought that
supposed to be
blazer
sort
in
of
the
messy.
opening with it was like the nice embroidery and it was kind of a purple thing with the shoulder pads.
Oh, I remember
You make it
that
sound so
designer.
nice.
I have to remember
You're
that
like shoulder
designer
pads and
wore
it
embroidery
was
and
nice in the day.
No, I figured
the
out who
day.
that was. That was a designer that Denise Wingate found that we wore a lot of. Yeah, those
Okay.
beautiful
Yeah.
blazers. You know who else wore them? Julia Louis-Dreyfus wore a lot of them on
Okay.
Seinfeld.
Yes.
They were
We have to
very
find out
big
the
in the
designer,
90s.
but
like
that-
I was. Have I mentioned that? I was big in the 90s.
That looked like something
I
that she
heard
would
something
wear.
about that.
Tell me
Elaine would
something.
wear.
All right.
Anyway, I thought that you looked perfectly lovely. I thought Billy looked like Billy. But no pink pants with the tucked in with the belt T-shirt. He's starting to look.
He was dressed as Santa. He was so
Yeah.
insanely adorable,
As Santa.
romantic leading
And
man.
Billy.
And I'll
Yeah.
take care of things. Let me take care of
Yes.
you. I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
and then
And
y'all
I
went
I
home
will say,
together.
Allison did soften a bit, thank God, because if she kept up her.
Yeah,
She
They
had a
have
lot
to.
going on. She had a lot on her mind, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned she had a tumor. It was benign, but it would have to be removed.
I did notice her enlarged
She didn't have
uterus.
insurance. I don't know if you
right.
heard
And
that.
the parents
I
were struggling
did
and
see.
didn't have extra money.
And my dad lost his job. Like that was the other thing.
Yeah.
My dad lost his
Yeah.
And they're living off their savings.
Yeah.
and they're living out the series. Like they really covered all the bases why I had
Yeah.
no options.
There's a lot. We had another comment from a listener, and on Reddit, actually, someone noticed and observed maybe Jane's back into referencing the Jane's baby storyline. Maybe Jane's baby is a metaphor for Melrose 1.0. And when the baby dies, so too does that version of the show. So right when that transition's happening, the show is transitioning. I thought, what a very profound
That's
thought and
interesting.
Could be.
observation.
I don't
Although
know.
this one felt like the original episode's better, like more happened, like we're getting, but it hasn't gone.
Yeah.
Like these are
We haven't
sweet
gone off the
storylines.
rails.
Like there's one about insurance and healthcare problems, and one about Jake's child. Like these are, and then a date, a lovely date, a romantic date. So
Yeah.
it's still sort of standard
starting
storytelling.
to change. It's
Yeah.
been a slow process, but I like that point too. I love that people are, thinking about it and pulling out, because as we're doing for the first time, undiscovering
Yeah.
it's like archaeology dig here. Like, remember this, remember that. I love that the fans are doing that with us.
So do you remember, Laura, when you came on, was it still sort of sweet? And then when you came back is when it started to get crazy?
I mean, I didn't really have a sense of it being of like
Crazy.
the before times or whatever. So just me coming on, my little bubble of storyline was I was already there to like mix it up a little bit,
With your
It
sister.
felt
So
like-
you did too. And
Yeah.
then how long were you gone?
I'm gonna be gone for the rest of season 1.
And then
I'm just
when
gonna
you-
come in for these
season
first
2, were you hired as a series regular?
I can't I don't think I was a series regular by title, but I was there for every episode.
So you started off recurring and then they did a contract.
Yes, I think so. And again, that's like a way
or
to
you
like
could be recurring the whole 5 years.
Right. And it's like also you're credited for being a regular. That also just sort of means a different pay scale too. You know,
exactly. That's what I'm
so
thinking.
yeah. So I think I came back as like, I don't remember, but I think I came back as a guest by title, but I was there for kind of every episode for season 2 and beyond.
Again, 18 is our Christmas
we're getting
episode,
very close.
and
Christmas
that will
is
air
next.
on December 23rd. And then when we come back in January,
Yep.
we'll be watching you.
Yep.
So you won't have to feel left out anymore.
Yes. So we're looking forward to our next recap,
All
which
three of
will be
us will
Christmas.
be.
For a minute, you're going to be a part of for a minute, and then you get booted out. For
Well,
Yeah.
2, you do 2, right?
So you're like,
I
I'm
just
in the
do the
club,
2.
I'm in the club.
And then
No,
you
I'm
can-
not.
I just
Yeah. It's Laura Leah.
Yeah. Then I'll go back to narrating.
Well, basically you come in and then this by the time you come back, the show is just like, what?
Yep.
Yeah. See you guys
See you
next time.
next week. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Decisions, the podcast where boundaries are pushed and conversations get candid. Join your favorite hosts, me, Weezy WTF,
and me, Mandy B,
as we dive deep into the world of non-traditional relationships and explore the often taboo topics surrounding dating, sex, and love.
Every Monday and Wednesday, we both invite you to unlearn the outdated narratives dictated by traditional patriarchal norms. Tune in and join in the conversation.
Listen to Decisions on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.